Good afternoon, everybody. This is Adrienne Montgomery with ERP VAR. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to join us today. Today, we're going to be talking about Acumatica eCommerce and warehouse management automation. I'm so pleased to have Kinzium with us today and Savant Software. This webinar is sponsored by Zebra Technologies, and Zebra is the largest supplier of mobile handhelds and barcode printers in the world. So thanks to Zebra for bringing us this presentation along with Kinzium and Savant. And just a couple housekeeping notes before we get started. If you note on your webinar pane, you'll see that there's a question mark button. If you should have any questions throughout the presentation, we just ask that you click on that question mark button and a dialog box will open up where you can go ahead and key in your question. We'll be reserving the announcing of those questions until the end of the webinar. And once again, we just appreciate your time joining us today. We know it's hard to come by, and we really appreciate you spending it with us. And I've got Rick Stephan with the Director of ERP Sales at Kinzium with us today, and Diane Cawley, Chief Software Architect over at Savant. They'll be showing the integrated e-commerce Acumatica solution. And just a little bit about the companies. Acumatica is an enterprise resource planning system. It delivers adaptable cloud and mobile technology. And the unique thing about Acumatica is that they sell Acumatica only through their network of dedicated certified partners throughout the country. They have an all-inclusive user licensing model enabling a complete real-time view of your business anytime, anywhere. And Kinzium is the full-service e-commerce solutions provider with Acumatica. They specialize in designing and developing and integrating e-commerce websites. They also offer implementation, integration, and customization of your Acumatica system. And they offer the Acumatica Commerce Edition that is a fully embedded e-commerce solution within Acumatica. And Savant Software is a leading provider of supply chain solutions for small, mid-market enterprise distributors and manufacturers. Savant supply chain solutions are scalable, modular, and designed to fit every budget. So many of today's leading ERP applications are integrating seamlessly into Savant supply chain solutions. And a little just about the workflow we're going to be talking about today, and then I'm going to hand this over to Rick. But we're going to be talking about how an order comes into Acumatica through an e-commerce website like a Magento storefront or a BigCommerce storefront. And that order, all the details of that order get sent into Acumatica, and where Savant can pick up all the details of the order for all the warehouse management utilization using the mobile devices that you see here on the screen. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Rick. Thank you so much, Rick.
Thanks, Adrienne. Thanks for the intro. Thanks, everybody. So yeah, Adrienne, you summed it up pretty well. But yes, thank you all for taking the little bit of time. I'm Rick Stefano, the Director of Sales for Kinzium. Today we're going to talk through how a commerce setup can look. But Kinzium as a firm is pretty unique. We're headquartered in Chicago, and we're exclusive to Acumatica. And then we are also a commerce agency for Magento and BigCommerce. So as Adrienne mentioned, we do both sides, and there's very few, if any, other firms that I know of that do both. And what that means when we talk about commerce is that the integration that Kinzium wrote between the commerce platforms and Acumatica, we take into consideration all the nuances that commerce companies deal with, right? The pricing complexities, the promotion, sales tax, customer product and order syncs, B2B, B2C, all of those. So we were founded quite a while ago. We started with Magento, and then Acumatica, and then with BigCommerce. We've also done other extensions with payment gateways, sales tax, shipping. Really, our focus is all about commerce. So Kinzium really exclusively works with commerce. So I'm going to stop the slideshow, and we'll get into Acumatica. So today I'm gonna work out of Magento as the commerce platform, but what we're gonna look at is the same regardless of, if it was BigCommerce or Shopify. So let's start. I'm going to start with like some of the setup in Acumatica. We'll look at a little bit of the setup in Magento, and then we'll start passing some orders around. So I'm logged in into Acumatica right now. I'll start by looking at the stock item setup. So if I open up, hopefully some of you are familiar with Acumatica, very user-friendly. I'm in the inventory workspace. This is called a generic inquiry, and I'll get into this in a few minutes, but you have the ability to create permanent filters, which makes it very, very simple to put different parameters and conditions on, so you don't have to filter at the column level. So if we open up this Nikon camera here, this is an item master, right? Or an Acumatica stock item master record. The inventory SKUs in Acumatica are quite flexible, any combination of data up to 30 characters, so alpha, numeric, hyphen, spaces, a lot of flexibility. At the item level, you can decide if it's active. Acumatica does give you some flexibility here where it's not active yet, there's no sales or purchases. We enhance that through the e-commerce tab, which I'll talk about in one second. Classes are pretty important in Acumatica, and they drive a lot of the data. So the item class here, if I open this up, just so I can show you the hierarchy, you have a tree that can go as many layers deep as you need. This actually has all just one layer, but all of your settings as you're onboarding new products and going to put new products out to the website are driven by the item classes. So 80 to 90% of all of the setup is going to be done very seamlessly. So here I have my general settings. Is it what tax category, posting class? Is it a lot or serial tracked item? Units of measure, there's units of measure conversion. The price cost information, so this is $292. I'm going to show you how that you can update the pricing just right from the ERP. Warehouse details allow, Acumatica allows you to track multiple warehouse locations. Sometimes we have companies that will have retail locations fulfilling commerce orders, and you want to track different locations with different stock levels. You can do all of that with Acumatica. So the e-commerce tab, this is what you get in the commerce edition. So this is added functionality to Acumatica ERP. And you'll notice I have the ability to have more visibility filters. So I can make this not visible on my website yet. I can make it catalog only, search only, or catalog and search. And I even have another flag here that it will not get pushed up to my commerce site until this is active. I can also decide if this is going to be a homepage item, a bestseller item. I can plant my URL key here. I have my short, long descriptions, alternate searches, meta tags, all of that. As I scroll down in the Commerce tab, I have the ability to put upsells, attach upsells and cross-sell items. It's as simple as adding other inventory SKUs right to this item, and that is will also push up to the website. Vendor details, where I purchase and procure this from, and all the different vendors and lead times. Attributes are also something that we can push back and forth between your commerce site and Acumatica. They could be pictures, it could be sales categories. So in your hierarchy of your commerce site, typically, Acumatica doesn't have the concept of sales categories. This is added with the Commerce Edition. And then you also have attributes that can push up and back and forth. Packaging, such as your DIMs and boxes and tariff codes, can be here. Replenishment information. For those of you not familiar, Acumatica has a fairly robust engine for replenishment. It will begin to listen to all of the sales orders, purchase orders, min-max thresholds associated here, and start to make purchasing suggestions to tighten up inventory levels. It also has the concept of seasonality. So if you have certain products only available in the winter, or your stock increases in the winter, you can easily apply seasonality codes, give it dates, and then Acumatica will keep up with it all. So I'm going to pull open my Magento dashboard now. So this is a commerce dashboard. Again, this is similar functionality. Inside of this Magento admin, I have an Acumatica workspace that you'll notice here. When I open up the Acumatica workspace, I have a lot of configuration options, and I'm not going to go through a ton of it today. We can dive deep if there's further questions on some one-on-one type call. But there's a lot of setup here. If I go into configuration, I'll just highlight a couple items. This is where I'm going to sync my Acumatica instance to Magento. I have sync configurations, which are going to give me a lot of flexibility of how I sync different categories of data back to Acumatica. So my warehouse, our connector gives the ability to connect to multiple warehouses. So different sites can have different warehouse connections, but you have defaults, attribute syncs, category syncs, and you'll notice in some of these, well, not some of them, a lot of them, you have the control to say, I want this to go one way from Acumatica to Magento, Magento to Acumatica, or bi-directional. I have different setups at the product sync level, inventory and pricing, product images, customer sync. There's a lot of data here, obviously. When there's new customers that come to the commerce site, we will validate into Acumatica to see if they exist. If not, it's going to create a customer record. To do that, it needs a lot of basic information. And so these are your default customer class, default customer terms, statement cycles, and when I add a customer shortly, you'll be able to see that it creates a customer seamlessly over in Acumatica. A lot of control over the order syncs. Sorry for the scrolling. I'm going to come over to the catalog, and if I'm going to open up, I was just looking in Acumatica at this Nikon here. So if I open up the price catalog, please dismiss this time to change your password. I'll do that later. I'm going to grab this camera here. And first, let's just do a quick price change. So here's my camera. Here's my price, $292, and the visibility all controlled inside of Acumatica. If I change this and I want to make this $280, I'm going to save this record in Acumatica. Now, I did it one-off. Of course, with price lists and price sheets inside of Acumatica, you can do massive price changes, so you don't have to do them one-off. I just want to show you what that looks like. So I made the change in Acumatica. Inside of the connector, we determine how often you want certain items to sync. So for example, you want inventory to sync, once a day, twice a day. You want orders to be real time, which is what this is, how I have it configured now. You have full control over that. What I'm going to do is just going to manually push this sync because the scheduler's not going to happen right this second. And in this sync here, I'm going to come over to the product price, and I'm going to sync it now. And in just a couple of seconds, it's going to go ahead, make the connection, and it's going to initiate. And you'll notice even here, it just told me that the SKU, the Nikon L110, changed to $280. So just that fast, I've now updated my website. And again, you can do that in bulk. Bulk action doesn't have to be one-off. But if I come back to my products, it's all set up and my price has been updated. Okay. So with that, let's talk about the customer view, and let's push some sales orders over to Acumatica. So what I'm going to do is go into the customer-facing side of the commerce platform. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to go to the customer view. Now the customer view, I'm just going to warn you now, it's not a very fancy site. It's very basic actually, but it gets the job done. It's just a core, this Luma theme, but this would be, just imagine, shopping on a site. The categories don't make sense in some of the cases, but I'm going to come over into electronics. I'll have my product listing pages. There's that camera. You could see the price has already been updated to $280 now. And I can come over, I can add this to my cart. I can add this to my cart. And we'll go ahead and we'll check out. So I'm going to add a new, I'm going to grab a new customer. Give me just 1 second here. Process them. And just so we can find them easily, I'm going to call it Babe Ruth, and I'm going to go create an address. Put a phone number in. Okay, and you'll notice it's already picking shipping data rates because of the dimensions of the product and all of that. That's just standard commerce functionality. All of that feeds back into Acumatica. So now I'm going to go ahead and make a payment. I should have turned that notification off. 1111. Okay, I'm going to place the order. And now Magento is going to assign this order. Okay, so this will give me a confirmation page. Great, order 209. I'm going to come back to my admin. I can look under my Magento orders, and I want to point out a couple of things here. So here's my list of Magento orders as it pulls up. Here's my order 209, and you'll notice that there's a column here, Acumatica. It has already created a sales order 4309 inside of Acumatica. I didn't mean to click into that order. So now I'm going to come over to back into Acumatica, and I'm going to come to my sales order screen, and I'm going to look at all my sales orders. And you'll notice I have a tab, just like I showed you before on the other screen, inventory. I have some permanent filters. Here's this week's open orders, and here's 4309 Babe Ruth, and there's my two products. So no human intervention, the system validated. It did not have, Babe Ruth was not a customer yet, created a customer record, and on the header of the sales order, it planted the Magento sales order. So Magento calls it 209, Acumatica calls it 4309. And you know, when customers call in, they're most likely going to reference the, your commerce number more so than the ERP number, and you can easily get to it. So this is 0209. Here's my order. I'm going to come out and come into something else and just show you how cool Acumatica runs. There's a universal search. If I type 0209, it instantly pulls up the sales order, which again, Acumatica is 4309, but because our connector puts that external reference number, you can easily get into a commerce order number. And here I could potentially adjust the order, add another line item, change the shipping method, make sure that a promo was accounted for. Acumatica allows for flexible discount codes, and you can track all of whatever your marketing team can come up with as far as promotions, whether it's BOGOs or buy one, get two free, all of those we can track and keep up with through our connector and into Acumatica. So from here, I can go ahead and I can create the shipment. This all looks good. This is a one-off way to create shipments inside of Acumatica. But what I'll do is just show you the actual bulk way and what most customers do. So there's a process order screen, which is basically bulk action. And I can create shipments off of sales orders. And you'll notice here's a list of open sales orders. And here's Babe Ruth down here. And I can go ahead and I'll manually push over these 10 items. This little clock here is a scheduler. So you can run this process screen to do this every hour on the hour or every 10 minutes if you want to. But I'm showing you mainly how to throw 10 sales orders that have all been validated to create shipments, but I wouldn't have to do it manually if I didn't want to. I could just go ahead and run a scheduler on this. So I can process all 10 of these orders, including Babe Ruth. Acumatica will work for a few seconds, and now all of those orders have been turned into, have had shipments created. So if I come to my shipment screen and I come to today's shipments, you'll notice these are all now open shipments. Babe Ruth is in here along with a whole bunch of other ones that have come in for the day. So at this point, this is where Savant picks up the Acumatica shipment, and I will let Diane take over from here, and then we'll come back after she completes it and show you the full flow all the way back into the commerce site.
All right, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Rick. I just wanted to do a quickie couple of slides here to introduce Savant as well before I get into the processing, on our end. Basically, I'm Diane Colley, Chief Software Architect here at Savant Software. We've been around for 20 plus years, working with all kinds of different customers, large and small, and we've been working with Acumatica for the past 4 to 5 years. We have various customers and various sizes of companies out there, and we have different licensing to handle that. So I'm just going to throw this up here. It can be as simple as a subscription as $100 per user per month, or you can do a purchase as well. And then there's different versions. It's sort of an ADC, which is a smaller or a lighter version. And then we've got a full-blown WMS that has a lot more complex capabilities with it as well. Like I said, we've been working with Acumatica for quite some time, certified on the product, and we have people internally that are certified developers as well. So quite a variety of customers on the platform. We work with various different hardware. Our favorites really are Zebra. Whoops, I guess I should go backwards. All kinds of different sizes, shapes, form factors. Most of them now these days running Android. And there's a scanner, a handheld device that can fit just about every need out there. So we can help you decide which ones you like. We don't sell the Zebra hardware ourselves, but we can give you recommendations based on what other people are doing. Got a couple of quick testimonials here from a couple of existing customers about how their experience went with choosing and then implementing the Savant side of the house with Acumatica. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here with the demo part. All right. So I have a few things I want to talk about. First one is we have various pieces here that are used in the warehouse. You don't necessarily need to be logged into Acumatica to do the job in the warehouse. We have our own view, our own screen that will show the information of the orders as they're being pushed into the warehouse for us to process. So for example, I have many of them here in our open order details screen. And then also, we're going to be looking at the handheld device, and it's just easier for me to show this on the screen this way. It's basically another website URL that you go to launch the scanner app. You don't need to download a bunch of software onto the device. You can just pretty much get it up and running in a matter of minutes. And various things can be done in the warehouse, from receiving, moving product around on the shelves. You can do cycle counting and adjustments and keep track of your inventory very closely. And all of that we have covered in a prior webinar, and the scope of this one is to not go through receiving and that kind of function. We want to concentrate on orders and processing of orders. So I'm just going to mention all of these different options here, but not go through each one in detail. One thing to note is that you can give your warehouse workers various security options so that only people that are supposed to be doing receiving and put away, they don't have the ability to go pick orders. Or if you've got pickers, you want to just keep them in the picking functions, and they shouldn't be going into cycle counting or doing inventory adjustments, then you can set all of that up via security. The other thing that I wanted to kind of bring up is our main goal is to keep that warehouse productive, right? So we want to keep them busy at all times, not having to mess around too much with pushing too many buttons on computers because that slows them down. So we try to optimize their life as much as possible, while still keeping a level of accuracy and control over the inventory. So to that end, you're usually going to end up having various bin locations in your warehouse. And these can be set up in Acumatica, or they can be set up in Savant, separate of Acumatica. It just depends on how you want to do things. But when you have your location, which I've got a few examples here, you can then specify whether or not that's an available location, whether or not you'll want to allow multiple products in that location. A lot of people have strong feelings about not allowing multiple items in a location, but there's always the exception. You might have a returns bin or something like that where you might need to have multiple items in there. And then whether or not you want to allow picking from that location. We do allow for this whole workflow process of having a forward pick area, and maybe that bin, starts getting depleted over time and you need to keep refilling it. We call that a replenishment, and the system can detect when that's necessary based on the item and the location and the min and the max type of a level there. So we want to keep that restocked so that the pickers, again, stay busy and don't have to wait for somebody to come refill that. The other thing that's really nice that you can do is if you've got a large area where you want to divide up the warehouse, you can do this concept of zones. And you can create different zones in the warehouse. I've got a couple here that I've created, like all of my A locations. And you can go in here and group them together however you like. You have as many as you feel like creating. And you can set up a sequencing. Now, I've done this very simply by just taking the alphanumeric sequence, and that's what I chose to do here. But you could have a scenario where you want to go forward on row A and then backwards on row B and then forward again on row C, that kind of thing. So you can create a walking path that will optimize, the fewest number of steps to get from one place to the next. And then that will help as well with the productivity of the people on the floor. So the combination of those things and then the orders that we get from Acumatica, we're going to be able to process and pick and pack those orders. And there's a couple of ways we can do it. One option is when the orders come into the warehouse, you can go have a manager, you can have them come into this screen, and they can choose, here's all the pending orders that have just come through, and in this case, it's a bunch of shipments from Acumatica, and you can pick and choose from here and then release them to the floor. This is a similar idea of what Rick was telling you about a few minutes ago. And many times with Acumatica, if you're doing that either scheduled or manually on the Acumatica side, then it's really not needed to do it again here. But there are maybe certain occasions you might want to do some releasing on our side. So we do have that capability. And I just wanted to bring that up. I'm not going to actually release any of these. I have others that are already released. If you choose not to use that releasing, we can have those shipments come through and be automatically now available for processing. I'm going to go ahead and refresh my screen here. I've got several orders that I want to work on, and you can see here that they came through today's date. We've got various statuses here. And we're going to go through and pick an order. We're going to do one order, just plain vanilla, and then we're going to go through and we're going to pick a group of orders. So what I'd like to do is, how do I want to do this? I want to go through here and say that we can print pick tickets if you'd like, or we can bypass printing of pick tickets. It depends on the workflow that you decide you want in your warehouse. So on this situation, I'm just going to go into picking. I'm going to choose this first order here. 1687. And I can type in the order number if I happen to know it. I can scan a barcode of that order number, or I can use this button that says Get Next, and it will just give me the next one in line based on priority rules that you can set up in the system. And of course, I chose the wrong one. I want 80. Sorry about that. I chose the wrong one. Let me scan my ticket. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do 1694. And here, it's going to start going through all those bin locations. It's going to pull up the line items that were on that order, and it's going to start feeding those to me in a sequence based on the location and the items that are on that order. So in this case, it's telling me I need to go to location B02B. So I go down to row B and find that location, and I scan it. And then we are asked to scan the product. So I pull that out of the shelf, got a barcode on it, so I want to scan that. And then that will count as one. So I've got things set up right now so that it's sort of like you're at the grocery store. You scan one, it counts as one. You can choose to change your workflow and have it where they have to type in a quantity. So in this case, it would have been 2. But here it's picked the one. It's telling me I've got one left. So I go ahead and scan this product again. And now that's telling me that order is fully picked. So what that does in the system is it will then close out that order and push it to the next step. That next step might be that you want to go through and do a packing or a shipping function on that order, and that will be perfectly fine. Or we can have it automatically do that in the background and create that shipping tracking number, based on what you just did here. Since we're not going to concentrate on shipping per se, I've got it set up to automatically close out and move on to the next one. I'm going to go ahead and refresh my screen here. And I should see that 1694 is now, no longer on the list. It's completed. And so that pushes back into Acumatica to handle the shipping information. So now let's talk about the second type of process that we want to go through, and that would be cart picking. And this is sort of batch picking, cart picking, very similar. The process here, you can imagine I've got a picking cart, and I want to pick a certain number of orders all at once because I want to save walking. I just want to make one pass through the locations and grab all the product I need for this group of orders. And usually in these kind of scenarios, you've got certain sizes of your cart where you've got different layouts. And in our case, I've created 2 different carts, one that's a 3-order cart and one that's a 6-order cart. A lot of times it's 6, 10, 20, that kind of thing, whatever it makes sense to fit on your particular cart that you have in the warehouse. I'm going to do 3 just because it's small. And then I'm going to say Get Next. I want the system to just go get me the next 3 orders and let's process them. You'll notice a couple of things here. It creates a batch number. So it's taken those whatever orders it has selected and put them into this batch. And if I go here and refresh, I should be able to see what it did. There they are. I've got 3 orders, and they're ready to be picked, and they're sitting 95, 96, 97. So these are ready to go. And now the other thing that you can have this do that's been quite successful is at the same time that you hit that button, you walk over to your Zebra printer and you pull off 3 labels, 1 for each of these orders. And it's sort of like a pick ticket on a label. I don't have a good way to show you that picture right now, but if you can imagine, that's what's going on. So I have 3 labels with the individual orders on them. I'm arranging them on my cart in the 3 separate positions. I lay those labels down. Now I'm going out to start picking. So I need to go to A01B, my first location. So what happens if I happen to go to the wrong place, like A3B? System, the barcode scanner is going to turn red. It's going to give a different beeping sound so that you can realize you made a mistake, and it won't let you progress until you get it right. So hopefully we're causing people to do things in a proper sequence. We go here to that location, and again, now it's asking me to scan the item, which is ELE HDD1. So I pull that out and scan. And now it's asking me to scan my order number. So I've pulled this off the shelf. I'm standing in front of my cart, and I have these orders in front of me, and I find the label that's appropriate for $16.95, and I want to scan that to prove that I'm putting it in the right place. All right, so I got my order here, and it didn't like my scan because I scanned 96. And it liked it when I got the right order. So I should be putting this with that label that said $16.95. And now I'm moving on, same location. So I'll scan that again. Apparently I've got another order with the same product on it. So I'll scan that. And the product, if I scan the wrong product, it's going to, again, give me some grief that I didn't do the right thing, so I can catch mistakes this way as well. A lot of times you're scanning UPC codes, and it's checking all of that as well to make sure it matches off to the correct actual item number. And now $16.97. So it's not going in sales order number sequence, it's going in bin location sequence. So I scan the order, and now I move on. B02B, I'm just going to go ahead and finish this one out for us so that we understand what's going on. But first, I'd like to refresh it one more time here and show you that on the Savant side, these orders have now changed to a different status, and that status is in pick. The idea here is we'll know if a supervisor was to happen to look at the orders, oh, these 3 are currently in the process of being picked right now. And we would then be able to see that change when we get to the end. So I'll show you when we finish this. All right, B02B. And Kindle. And order number 696. And now we move on. So C01A. I think you get the hang of what this is doing, but the nice thing is I'm doing multiple orders and moving my way through them in an organized fashion. Order again. C01B. So you notice I've been just progressing through my A's, B's, and C's in my my bin location. Product. And order number. C01B one more time. Oh, that was my fault. Okay, wasn't reading the prompt. Product number. So the system saves you from yourself sometimes. There we go. Now we're fully picked. All right. So what that ends up doing is changing all of the orders to a picked status and then sending them off to Acumatica. So you can see here they went to picked and it's in the process of sending these back to Acumatica. So I hope that makes sense. And there we go. The inventory is deleted from the actual bin location as we go through this. So if I took my scanner here and I wanted to go back to the menu and take a look at what was in inventory here for C01B, which is my last one, I can see I have various things in this bin location. One of them being my HDD3 hard drive, where I've got 994. Obviously, I've got a lot of other demo information here as well. I can also do a product inquiry at any time. If I wanted to see how many Kindles we had out there, I can see them here and where they're located in the warehouse. It might be in multiple locations, might just be in one. It all just depends on the situation. So with that being said, I am going to turn this back over to Rick to take a look at the results on the other end. Take it away.
Thanks, Ann. So we should be back at the shipment screen, right?
You should refresh the shipment screen, yeah.
Yep. Well, you could see mine though, right? I just want to bring everybody's attention. So 1694, that's the one that you went through and confirmed. So it automatically updated the shipment record. So in Acumatica, the shipment is attached to the sales order, and in it, it has the packages that it's been confirmed, and it also brought over the tracking number from Savant. So if I come over to my Magento side, just to show you the same thing here, that is Chris Briggs. That's this order back here, and you can see it's still sending pending because the sync it wasn't scheduled right in the time that we just did that demonstration. So just for congruency, I'll go ahead and I'll sync now, which would be like the job running at whatever schedule I had it set up for, and it should bring over, so the order status behind this working screen says pending here. And you could even see it's been updated with completed, shipment created with tracking number. And as it refreshes the page, order status is complete. So again, I'm in the admin. I can come over to the shipments and I can open up the shipment inside of Magento. Again, doesn't matter if it's BigCommerce or Shopify, and then my tracking number is here. This would trigger the email to the customer. Hey, the order's been shipped. Here's your tracking info, et cetera, et cetera. So full circle, started as a commerce order, seamlessly came through Acumatica, pushed over to Savant for pick, pack, ship, and then without any intervention, updates back to the site so your customer is updated. So that's pretty high level, I think, of just a workflow through a commerce environment. And obviously there's many nuances that could happen in between. Be happy to field other questions at a later time, and I'll turn it back over to Adrian.
All right, take care, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.